Baruch Hashem, Shalom, Aleichem, Chevra. Here we go. We're going to be doing a few more days here on Devekis, and really our entire lives are Devekis. It's not just a few more days, it's the rest of eternity. And then the Siyat D'Shmaya, we're going to go into Shoivim, which is in the other Sefer, so maybe we'll have one of the Chevra go out and buy like 500 copies, and then we'll distribute them for all those that need to learn Shoivim, the Siyat D'Shmaya. So I want everyone to go to page Kuf Aleph. Kuf Aleph. And it says, hey here, lahachdir sa'or. Let's talk about taking that light, taking that relationship, and making it real. And holding on to it. Lahachdir means to put it in. Like to make a cheder, to make a room for that light. You know, to use a mashal, we all have relationships, and some have ups, and some have big ups, and they have downs, and some have big downs. And one of the most important things in a good relationship is that the couple knows, or the chavrusa shaf knows, or the parent and child knows, etc., that when the times are special and good, you hold on to that moment and you store that place away somewhere special. You learn how to take those high moments and store them away, because inevitably times are going to come that's not always going to be so peachy cherry, if that's even an expression. And therefore we want to make sure that we have this storage house when things get a little bit rocky and shaky, that I'm able to hold on to those times. Right? Yeah. Because that's life. Life has ups and downs. In a EKG, when it's going like this, you know that you're doing good because you're alive. The problem is when it gets without ups and downs. Ups and downs is part of life. It's all part of life. So we need to learn how to, in those moments of goodness, to store it away, and that's going to help us when the lights go off, so to speak. Okay? And this is going to take us very smoothly into Shoivim, which is the idea of making a bris with Hashem, making a covenant and becoming loyal to Hashem, that no matter what happens, because that covenant was made, come what may. That's my favorite expression when it comes to marriages. I tell all the people about to get married, I say, you want to get married to your wife or to your husband in a way of come what may. Whatever is going to come our way in life, we're going to go through it together. That's a bris, that's a bond that we're going to make, that come what may. That being said, when the times are good and special, we hold on to things. We hold on to things. That's one of the reasons of a wedding ring, by the way. That there's a certain feeling of something was given that's so special. It's just a symbol. But it means that I remember something very special. I remember something very special. Let's look inside. Choshev lasim leiv. It's very important to consider the following. Shebizman hargashas ha'or, that when you're feeling the light, hargashas hatanig ba'Hashem yisborach, you're at a tish, you feel good, you understood the Gemara, things are going great, you woke up for Shachris, you felt amazing, you made a bracha, Shabbos is electrifying, you're in a good zone. Don't let it just be like, wow, another wow moment of my life. Let me put that in the wow category of life. Don't let it just be a good feeling. Pull it deeply into you. Be mindful of pulling that feeling deeply into you. That it should help you very practically. That you put that light into you in such a deep way that even when the light goes away, there will be a remnants of the light. I always hear from my Rebbe that you ever notice after Hanukkah, it's hard to clean out the oil of the Chanukias. In other words, it's impossible. You can't fully ever clean it out. Because Hanukkah does something where it puts this oil and it leaves an impression that lasts forever. Whenever I open up like my Hanukkah box, what has all the geschmacka stuff in it, and the wicks, and and just everything, the cups and all the candle, all the stuff in there, and the dreidels, everything's just like this residue of oil. Because it never goes away. It says, by the way, this is one of the things that when we talk about the righteous, that even after the righteous die, those who are tzaddikim, that their bodies do not rot in the grave. We have many first-hand accounts. When the Nazis, Yamach Shemam V'Zichram, may their names be erased, when they were on their pillage of destroying all that is good and sacred in the world, and they came to hunt down Jews, and they knew that the Jews would be praying in the cemeteries, because they would go to their Vander Rabbinas, they would go to the graves of the tzaddikim, and they were by the grave of the Noam Elimelech in Poland, as they were going through and sweeping and bringing their tear to the world. And they found the Jews there. Of course, the Jews were praying to Hashem in the merit of the tzaddik. And it said to the Jews, dig him up. This was, he had been gone for 200 years before that moment. And of course, the Jews had to, and they dug him up. And when they opened the coffin, we have people who were alive, who saw this. They opened the coffin. Inside the coffin, the body of the Noam Elimelech was totally preserved. His face and his flesh was bright pink. And his payas and his beard were still wet from the mikveh that he went into before he was buried. And the Nazis freaked out. The same thing happened to the Vilna Gaon and many others, where they saw wondrous things. Why? Because the neshama is like an oil. We spoke about this yesterday. When the oil comes and it penetrates deeply into your body, it could make a residue as such that even the body became oily with the light of the neshama, that the body doesn't rot. What we're talking about now is making this light, making your moments of inspiration deep, that they leave a residue. That even when, so to speak, the jug of oil has been removed, and it's just the jug, it's just the body there, or it's a moment where it doesn't feel like I'm feeling inspired because there's a residue, so the body remains intact. Because there's a residue, the person feels inspired in moments of challenge. Weiter. Because sometimes sometimes a person feels very lit up. You went to a Friday night meal. Everyone looked so beautiful. It was wonderful. It was amazing. I want this in my life. But it doesn't help you later on when things get tough. Even though he felt something, but when things get tough, he falls. Why does this happen? A person might say. Does it mean that the original inspiration was not true, was not real? No. Kiven shebizman hatayr vatfil v'shar hargoshes hadvekus hayloy rak his noitzutz v'hargoshes haor alaki. When you were learning, there was a spark. You got the spark, but you didn't hold on to the spark and say, this is needed for the rest of my life. Today in yeshiva, or wherever you are in the world, you have a moment, you're at work. If you have one moment of inspiration, you need to think to yourself, I need to hold on to this light for the rest of my life. I don't want this to just remain as something. I need to hold on to this. I want to put this deep into me. I heard from one of my rabbis, Rav Lawrence Kellerman, He said a very powerful thing from Rav Wolbe. He said Rav Wolbe would always say over that if you had an opportunity to learn a piece of Torah and you didn't, it's very dangerous. Why is that? Because if some Torah came your way, you were invited to go to a shir and you could have gone, you had a Chevrusa this afternoon and you sort of wiggled out, you were not feeling well, or any other opportunity that came your way. There was a class, somebody mentioned it, and you had time to go, and you didn't go. Rav Wolbe would say that there was a reason why God sent you that Torah, that you needed to hear those lessons. You needed that Torah because sure as day, there will be a challenge that's around the corner. And if you don't have that Torah, you won't have the weapons to fight. So if you never learn the Torah, you're not going to have the machinery, you're not going to have the weapons to be able to fight it off. So anytime that there's some invitation coming to you, now that could also be a year's worth of invitation. You're here, it means there's a reason why this whole year you need to be learning Torah. Because coming, it could also be that afternoon. There is some challenge around the corner, and Hashem sent you the weapons that now you're going to be able to fight it off. So the way he said it is, if you don't go to that class, you're not going to have the weapons. You're in danger. Even if you do go to the class, though, you still have to use the weapons. There's going to be a fight. He gave a mashal. He said there was a robber that came into somebody's house. Lo aleinu. And a gun, just before the robber came in, fell out of like an attic. And he just noticed the gun falling, and he said, well, I guess I should just take this and throw it into the trash. There's probably no reason why it fell out of the attic at this moment. And then the robber came into the house. So he does not have the gun anymore. How is he going to defend himself? But even if he takes the gun and realizes that there's a reason that I have this here, he's still going to have to use it on the armed robber. Does that make sense? So when a person gets Torah, there's an invitation to learn something. It means that you need this. Torah is not a simple thing. Torah is a very deep and profound thing. You're getting an arsenal of what you're going to need to fight the spiritual battles of this world. And it's not enough just to learn the Torah. What we're talking about now is lahachtir, or to take the light of the Torah and say, I need this. I'm really going to need this throughout the rest of my life. I want to hold on to this. C. Meyer said a very beautiful thing also. As a rule, in the Parsha, we saw Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef HaTzadik was what? The king in Mitzrayim. Oh, Yosef Chaim Eade in Mitzrayim. Yesh lo tzvei kindalach Menashe u'Mifrayim. When the kids come home from school, one sings the Hebrew version, one sings the Yiddish version, one sings the English version, and then they all sing it together. So Yosef is a king in Mitzrayim. How did he become the king? He said, because you're going to have 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine, you should store up your grain in the 7 years of plenty so that you have what to eat in the 7 years of famine. Said C. Meyer, oh, hear this well, this is so deep. That piece of Torah is eternal. It means Hashem will always give you something called 7 years of plenty. During the 7 years of plenty, you better store up those goods. Because there's going to be 7 years of famine. There's going to be a cycle of famine that you need to make sure you've got that stuff stored up. And don't be flippant like, oh, 7 years of plenty, party, just squander our resources, great idea. No, store up, prep, buy gold, silver, etc. Prep, get yourself ready, spiritually speaking. Because there's always going to be some type of a drop, and you need to be prepared for that. So what we're talking about now, specifically here in Dveikus, is when you have that light, make sure you remember there's a reason I'm getting this light now. I want to pull it deep into me. I want to hold on to this. Okay? Ki kol or v'hargoshes halakus. Tzarich sheyeh loy levush v'kli. She'bar la'odam ma ha'or hazeh oimer loy bechayiv. You need to know. The light comes, but then you need to put it into a vessel. God, what are you telling me? Why am I learning this? What am I going to need this for? To think that through. There's a reason why I'm watching this class, or I'm going to that shir, or I'm doing this mitzvah, or I'm feeling this very beautiful feeling in this relationship. There's a reason I need to hold on to this. Look at that language. Such a beautiful thing to underline. To translate that light, that experience, that geschmack, those very high moments in Camp Haas, where it's like, this is awesome. It's a paid advertisement. Awesome. So beautiful. Helping, doing an empire of chesed. Why? Just to tell everybody else to go? Could be. But this must be something that I'm going to need. That this is the way that I'm going to live my life, the way I'm going to run my marriage, the way I'm going to have kids, the way that I'm going to look at my job, the way that I'm going to just see life. There's a reason that I got that light. You have to think about it. I love that line. Translate that beautiful experience into a practical message. Translate that beautiful experience into a practical message. Tell yourself, what does this mean to me now? What am I going to need this for? I'm at the tish, just that I felt good. No, why do I need that experience? When this light comes in, light again is always a coder for relationships. When you're having a good relationship, when you have a beautiful conversation with your wife, with your husband, on a date, and it was like a breakthrough. That's called light. Why did we have to have that breakthrough? You think to yourself, there must be that there's something needed in that. And you apply it to your life in a practical way. It's making it practical, making your Torah life practical. Why did I have such a good chakras this morning? Or why was that one day of Hallel like awesome? Or when I went to daven at the Kaisel Nates, like, this is beautiful. I stayed up the whole night learning. And like, what do I need? What's it telling me? It's talking to you. It shouldn't be that the light is like, that was like awesome. But it just remains this kind of like experience. Translate those experiences into something very, very real. Elyon, something that's up there. Next page. It's like, it's outside of my life. It was awesome, but it's not really like part of my life. Bring it into your life. You hear that line? That's like what we said from Rev Lawrence Kellerman. When you have that light, it's going to give you weapons to fight the enemy. The enemy will come, spiritually speaking, in some cases physically. You're going to need the weapons to fight that enemy. If the guy didn't know why he got those weapons and he just says, oh, then how is he going to make it practical? How is he going to use it? The Torah is called Klei Zayin. It's called weapons. Weapons that ensure safety. Because when there's an intruder, you want to be able to neutralize. Yes?
Is it referring to spiritually safe? Like, what is the weapons referring to defending yourself against?
From the Yetzer Hara, the time of defending from the evil inclination. There's no bigger danger, there's no bigger evil in the world than the evil urge. That's why who's the truly mighty man? What does Pirkei Avos say, Ethics of Our Fathers? So the way most people grew up, the truly mighty man is Rambo, bazooka man, like bullets everywhere. No, he's not. Unless he wakes up in the middle of the night and for a screaming baby and helps to coo the baby back to bed when he's really tired and goes and overcomes his evil urge to get angry, and whoever's Rambo's wife might be, would marry such a monster probably. He could be a nice guy, I don't know. Does he learn Torah? I never heard. But the mighty person is the one who's the master over his evil inclination. Not a person that can go and conquer a city and with a bunch of bazookas. That doesn't impress us. It impresses me if somebody is usually a very impatient person and he has a problem with road rage. And at the moment that he wants to just open up his window and he just takes a deep breath and he plays it cool, that is a strong and mighty person. You only get there with Torah. That's the weapons we're talking about. Therefore, lemaisa, you need to think about this light, move it in a direction. Make it relevant to something in your life. Okay, and I want people to start thinking about this. When you get a moment like that, make a journal of it. You can call it your or journal. What was the purpose? And describe it. Why did I get that beautiful experience? We know the general parts are because there's going to be a challenge coming up. You're going to need that light in order to fight something off. You're going to need, when things go down in the future, that you have this reserve. It's going to teach you where God is taking you. So those are the general. But now what about that particular light? Why was that light there? What's that here to help you with? Maybe a light comes and you're really working on your anger. And you had an amazing moment where you were singing to God and you felt something beautiful. And at that moment you say, God, take this feeling and help me take this and conquer my anger with this. That's beautiful. Let me take this beautiful feeling and be more patient and kind to my brother, my sister, my mother, my daughter. Put it somewhere. If you don't have a specific thing, as toiv lachnis, lefi starm kvuim, lamashal yachshay bedal madregas asulam, etc. He says, pull it into something general in your avodas Hashem. But I'm charging with you guys with the responsibility. Take that light and start making a light journal. What is the purpose of this coming to me? This feeling of relationship. How could it now help me? B'siyat d'shmaya. And with that, we're going to increase tremendous light in the world for all of humanity and be able to overcome all the forces of ra, of evil, using this light, because a little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness. B'siyat d'shmaya, the sea. Mashiach Tzidkenu riding on the white donkey, coming across that mountain right there, the Mount of Olives, and the resurrection of the dead, and the building of the Beis HaMikdash, and all the miracles of the Beis HaMikdash, b'mehera v'yameinu, amen. Amen. Kol Tuv. Wonderful.